What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Flying solo this morning. We'll see if some of the guys jump in here. They're probably still crashed out from last night, I would imagine. I know Tim celebrated a birthday, so shout out to Tim. Happy birthday to you, buddy. I'm sure you guys are maybe out of town traveling, doing something fun, but you never know when those knuckleheads might jump in here for sure. But let's do this. Let's get the show kicked off right. I see a bunch of people in the chat already. Just want to give a shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 1992, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Just click on the link in the video description that'll send you to their website, theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. All right, so first things first, I see the chat in here. A lot of people already following in. Got a couple of these starred. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this Saturday morning, as I know there's going to be a great day of college football kicking off. I'm just about an hour 20 minutes north of Knoxville, and I know that's going to be a big matchup down there between Alabama and Tennessee. Obviously, the third weekend in October. That's something that's been legendary. It's always just been a part of everything Knoxville since I moved to Knoxville. I moved down to Knoxville, I guess it was 2000, 2001, and lived there for 6 years. And man, that third week in October, nothing else matters. It's all, you knew two things living in Knoxville, Tennessee, third week of October. It's one, first and foremost, Tennessee Bama week, and two, that's the best week to overseed your lawn. So that was the only two things that mattered that week. But obviously that's going to be a great game. And then you got Georgia, Texas tonight. So there's going to be a lot of good football on it. And I know some people are like, what's that got to do with the Packers? Now's the time of year when you get these big matchups that you want to key in on some of those top prospects. So what I would suggest everybody do is go to the consensus big board and go, okay, who are the top prospects at a position of need for the Packers? And, for me, I personally think we could probably use another interior defensive lineman, kind of get ready for the day that Kenny Clark is not here. Carl Brooks has been stepping up big. So that's a position I've looked at. Also, cornerback. You got Keyshawn Nixon, who's starting to play on the boundary, because I think we would all agree it seems like Stokes is probably on his way out unless he turns it around this season. So if that's the case, you may need some depth at corner. We talked about that going into the last draft. We felt like we needed depth at corner. Obviously, the coaching staff disagreed. They passed up on seemed like some pretty good prospects. Now, it depends on where you go and how you coached up, all those things, on whether someone actually succeeds. But, we obviously chose to pass on corner early, and now I think everybody would agree, like, oh, man, it probably wouldn't have been a bad idea to go get a corner. And what I mean by that is, you find somebody who fits your scheme and what you're looking for predominantly in the type of defense you want to run. And on top of that, we drafted Jordan Morgan, right? Well, you're seeing a rotation between Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan. I'm not saying Jordan Morgan was a bad pick. I think he's going to be an excellent offensive lineman. We showed a couple of clips on the last episode where he was just absolutely dog walking people. Now, he's got his mistakes too, but if hindsight 2020, Sean Ryan playing his best football. Now, maybe he doesn't play his best football if you don't draft the first rounder to kind of, compete for his job. Who knows? But if you went the cornerback route, you may have been able to land a stud in this draft, and it probably wouldn't have been one of the big name players like the Quinyon Mitchells or the Kool-Aid McKinstries or those guys, because some of those guys are struggling. But you go through your scouting process and you find the guy that you like the most. And as we see with Jair Alexander, I don't remember anyone going, oh yeah, Jair Alexander's a first round corner. Maybe they were. I just remember way back then it was, who's this guy? Hold up, from Louisville. And then you dive into it and go, okay, yeah, I see it now, right? So you're probably going to be looking at the cornerback market. So key in on the top corners and what will potentially be next year's draft class, right? So that's the way that I like to look at college football personally, and there's a lot of big games on today. So definitely go and check that out as the day goes along here. Let's see here. Nick McSwain in the chat said, I heard the Texans are 26th in the league in turning the ball over, so 6th most interceptions / fumbles. Feel like it could be a day for the defense. I actually just checked that because that number kind of surprised me, Nick. And unless they're adding in that number that you heard, unless they're adding in something else as far as that number goes, here are the NFL team giveaways per game in 2024 through October 20th. or it says the date October 20th. So obviously it's through this more recent game here on Thursday Night Football between, what was it, the Saints? Can't remember the other team. The Saints played someone. Anyway, as far as NFL team giveaways per game, that means fumble and interception. If you look at it here, they're actually not best in the league at only 1.2. They're actually tied for, tied for ninth best in the league at only 1.2 giveaways per week. Now, if you see Green Bay, we're at 1.3, so we're slightly worse, if I'm understanding your comment correctly there. But that's at least what the team rankings website is showing currently. So they're actually pretty good at protecting the ball. If I'm looking at this correct, let's actually dive into interceptions and see how our boy CJ Stroud has been doing. Let's go interceptions thrown per game and make sure that number checks out. Yeah, Houston. So he's only throwing 0.7 interceptions per game, which ties him for 12th best in the league. The Packers, obviously, a little bit lower there at the 25 mark with 1 interception per game. So if we go to fumbles now and see if we could sort through that. This thing gets a little bit glitchy. I apologize. Let's just go fumbles per game rather than fumbles lost per game. Okay, that way we kind of sort that out. So, yeah, they're 4th best in protecting the football there. So I'm not sure what that number entailed. There may have been some other things that were compiled there, Nick. But when you said it, I was like, whoa, that surprises me. And it seems like that may be inaccurate. So double check that, or if you want to post where it came from, all that good stuff. Nick also said, wish we didn't play at the same time as the Vikings and Lions. Amen to that, man. That's a game I really want to watch. And that's the beautiful thing about having like NFL Premium and NFL Pro and all that stuff. I think it's like $15 a month. I'm telling you, I would have that over any other subscription, me personally. I would have it over everything, PFF, everything, because I'm telling you, the tape is what's most important, and you get access to all that stuff for like $15, $16 a month. I think it's an absolute steal, personally. I love it, man. But the beautiful thing about that is you can go back and now watch those games, watch those replays, and even watch the all 22. You can watch just a condensed copy. If I've got a lot of stuff I want to do and I actually want to hear the TV broadcast of them breaking down what's going on the field, all that good stuff, then I'll listen to the whole broadcast. And you can actually, kill your phone. You know what I mean? Like go to the dark screen on it, just lock it, and still have that playing in the background. So that's how I kind of get caught up on some of those games. But there's some dandies this week too, man. I'm really excited for week 7. Quick shout out to NFL Nerding on Twitter. They are just one of the best follows all over X. They do stuff like this weekly. This is the week 7 preview for the NFL. Let me make a little note here, and I apologize for some of the dead air when I'm flying solo. I got to make show notes here as we go. Let's see, turnovers. All right. So NFL Nerdin puts this graphic out every week. So obviously it was the Broncos and the Saints. They dog walked the Saints there on Thursday Night Football. So tomorrow morning, the opening game is going to be at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Lambeau time. You're going to have the New England Patriots in London facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Not a whole lot to take away from that game, but it's nice to have some football on in the background. I may not even watch it. What I might do is go ahead and put Houston's last 3 games on in the background as I'm kind of getting ready for the pregame show and all that stuff. So, and obviously the pregame shows themselves are excellent. I love Fox NFL Sunday. That's kind of my go-to. But all right, so in the 1 o'clock hour, you got the Bengals at the Browns, the Titans at the Bills. You got obviously the Houston Texans traveling to Lambeau Field for that 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff, 12 noon Lambeau time. I think the weather's supposed to be great, something like 72 degrees. Obviously, it's going to be the whiteout game, the winter warning game. Going to be really cool to see everybody dressed in white. And I want to mention this real quick, too. Somebody sent this over to me. I thought it was awesome. We'll get back to this graphic. Christopher Coleman on X said, I wasn't originally a fan, but it's cool that the Packers all-white helmets for this weekend are actually a throwback from 1956. So I didn't know this. And it says 51 through 64 types of helmets predate the familiar Packers helmet with the G logo. Riddell did not manufacture pocket pros for these helmets. They have varying types of face masks. See the checklist at the bottom. So it shows that the third one listed from 1956 through 58, they had a plain white helmet with a dark green stripe. So that's kind of cool that it's almost like a throwback there. Obviously, they didn't have a G on it, if I'm looking at it correctly, but still going to be neat to see them wear that white throwback helmet. Now, I don't even know if I think they said Jordan kind of led the way in pitching this. I don't know if they even knew that, to be honest with you. I think they may have just kind of stumbled onto that, but I think it's awesome that they're wearing the all white unis. And I know there's some people that are traditionalists. I consider myself a traditionalist, but I like it when they change things up, man. And I know there's some people that are upset that aren't Packer fans, which is amazing that they're upset. And they're sitting around saying, oh, this is just a cash grab. This is just a cash grab. Welcome to the NFL. Everything's a cash grab. Tim knows what I'm talking about. Tim be spending money every day on the NFL product. Am I right, Tim?
What's up, Clay? Yeah, I spent a few dollars on the NFL products before, for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure Jordan Love did lead the way with the pitch. It could have been Cliff Crystal too that informed everybody that hey, by the way, we had a run of white helmets in the 50s.
Could have been, man. But shout out to Chris for making us aware of that. I thought that was awesome. So anyway, we were just kind of going through the weekly preview here. So Texans at the Packers are going to be wearing the all white unis. The whiteout game is going to be awesome. Then in the 1 o'clock hour, you've got the Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts. Then you got Philly at the New York Giants. And then, of course, the other great game, I can't wait to watch a replay on it, is the Lions at the Vikings. Is a 1 o'clock kickoff. It's a shame that they didn't flex that. And I don't know all the flexing rules, but when you look at the 4 o'clock window, well, first of all, Seattle, the Seahawks at the Falcons is a 1 o'clock game as well, a 12 noon game. I gotta keep saying 12 noon. I know these are all Eastern. Everybody kind of operates on Eastern time, but the majority of our fans are more, more interested in the noon time zone there. Which we got Packer fans that are listening from all over the world. It's so cool to look at the world map and see where people are watching the channel from. It's all the way across the globe. Yeah, I think we have one in Japan at one point. I'm like, we got somebody watching the show in Japan. How cool is this? But anyway, so that's your 1 o'clock window. What I was getting at is when you look at the 4 o'clock window, you got the Panthers at the Commanders, right? I mean, the Commanders are having a good year, don't get me wrong, but, I don't think anybody's like rushing to their TV to watch that matchup. You got the Raiders at the Rams. Nobody's,
the Raiders.
Now, the Kansas City Chiefs at the 49ers is going to be very interesting because I would not be surprised if the 49ers pop up after they've been getting beat up here lately and just knock off the Chiefs and give them their first loss. That would be awesome. But at the same time, that's one of those win-wins for me, Tim. If the Chiefs win, great. I hate the 49ers. That's awesome. If the 49ers win, it's like, great. I hate the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm right there with you.
The daddy's so win
for us. I love it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. So what I was getting at is like, obviously that 4:25 kickoff with San Fran and Kansas City, that's either going to be the Fox or the CBS game of the week there. Why not flex out that Detroit Lions Minnesota Vikings game and have kind of on the other network? That way you've got that in that 4 o'clock window. It just the NFL does a lot of things great, Tim. I think you would agree, right?
Yeah.
But for everything they do great, you have just little minute details like this, like what are we doing here? And it could have been the Packers flexed, right? Like the Packers Texans might be more appealing to some, maybe the majority of people than the Lions and the Vikings, although the record would suggest the Lions and the Vikings would be the more interesting game. But just the fact that you've got in that 4 o'clock window, the Panthers at the Commanders and the Raiders at the Rams instead of the Texans at the Packers or the Lions at the Vikings it's just crazy to me. Do you agree with that? It just seems weird.
100%. I agree. I mean, I look at Texans Packers. That could have been your Sunday night football game, primetime game this week too. But of course, what a coinkydink. We get Jets and the Steelers just in time for the arrival of Mr. Adams in New York over there. So I'm sure that'll hurt the ratings a lot on Sunday night football, right?
No doubt.
Viewership will be down for sure, right? Yeah, no. It's great. You're absolutely right, though. The league does so many things well, and then there's these things where you just like you kind of scratch your head at some of these matchups. But I don't know if you ever saw that NFL Films documentary on how they make the schedule.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like,
interesting.
So I'm gonna like not talk too much trash on the scheduling committee because it's something that's steeped in tradition that. goes back to the old days when they were like pegboarding it up and using stickers and did everything by hand. And now it's just, of course, we've got the technology, which you would think makes it easier, but it still looks just as difficult. It's just a little easier for them to navigate, I guess. But you got to tip your cap to the scheduling committee to even pull this off every single year and get these matchups right. We've had a few primetime matchups that were kind of cheeks, but hey, there's a few teams in this league that are kind of cheeks. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you make a great point there. That documentary, I guess you call it a documentary. I seen it on NFL Network. It was like a special they aired. I think it's awesome. It's fascinating, and what a huge industry. God, the money that rolls in and out of this business is just absolutely wild to me. When you talk about just the amount of money that coaches have gotten paid and not even been coaching the team because their contracts are fully guaranteed, it's insane, man.
Yeah.
It really, really is. All right, let's see. There was something else I wanted to hit on real quick. I think it was a comment we had. Yeah, here we go. Jason Yu says, I'm watching from Japan. Usually can't watch these live. That's awesome, Jason. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for swinging through. Yeah, it was really cool. What we need to do is create an interactive map here where we got a pin dropped everywhere. There's a viewer or a listener that we can zoom in and show you, all right, here's where, and not, obviously we wouldn't have time to put all the names, but every time we get a new country, drop a new pin. You know what I mean? Would be really cool. So
that's
we
awesome.
need to do that. Yeah,
we'll start our own, our PTA international program, right? Just like the league, right?
That way you don't have to just be in the States to experience a show that sucks, right? You can do it anywhere in the world. That's the way that'll operate.
This show sucks worldwide.
Exactly. So moving on to the Sunday night game, like you had mentioned, the Jets at the Steelers. That's going to be a great test. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm excited to watch Aaron and Devontae play just to see if it's like, is that chemistry still there? You would think it isn't, and it would take some time to build that back up. But that's just two. You've got two first ballot Hall of Famers. I think we would agree is probably Devontae will probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not 100% sure. Obviously, Aaron will. But you've got two Hall of Famers playing together against a traditional team like the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Probably going to be chilly, not game, that wind howling on that one end zone. It's just the way football's supposed to be played. I think that'll be a fun game for sure. And then Monday night, we get the doubleheader. We got the Baltimore Ravens at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to be a dandy. Tampa Bay is a team to really keep an eye on because they're having a pretty darn good year, man. They're 4-2, just like the Packers. If you look at the standings, which we'll talk about here in a minute, what you're starting to understand is you've got, I don't know what, maybe 4 to 5 teams that are in second place in their division or even third place in their division that have a shot to make the playoffs. So you're going to this is the time of the year, Tim, that I start to look at these teams that have a similar record and go, you know what? All right, we want to start rooting against that team. So for me, I'm a Baltimore fan Monday night, no doubt about it.
You have to be.
Yeah. And then you got the other one is the Chargers at the Cardinals. And, of course, we just knocked off the Cardinals, and the Cardinals sit 2-4. Doesn't have a whole lot of juice in that game for me.
Yeah,
so.
I'll be watching the Ravens Bucks. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to watch that. I'll watch the condensed version of the Chargers Cardinals game later, maybe.
If somehow, some way we get a plus 13 or more live betting, now
here we go.
I might tune in to the show. We'll see how it goes. Exactly. But let's go across the standings real quick throughout the league. In the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills are leading the way there at 4-2. The closest to them is the Miami Dolphins at 2-3. In the AFC North, you got the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, both with a 4-2 record. The Baltimore Ravens have the edge there as it currently sits. So that shows you Pittsburgh's playing damn good ball. If I heard correctly, too, I think Russell Wilson's going to be starting that game. So that's wild.
Here's the guy.
Blast from the past, especially with Justin Fields playing so good. It's just so odd. But in the AFC South, you got the Houston Texans are 5-1. Obviously, coming into Lambeau, it's going to be a great test, man. I mean, when you look at it, Tim, across the entire National Football League, there's 3 teams that have 5 wins. And this is one of them that's coming into Lambeau. And I know people go, oh, crap, what if they boat race? I don't care if they boat races. This is going to be a good measuring stick. I do care. I want the Packers to win, don't get me wrong, but this is a good measuring stick. All right, where is this team at? And they're really starting to create some momentum, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Specifically, Jordan Love's starting to really amp it up, which is really exciting. But so the Texans 5-1, the Colts are 3-3. They're in second place, and everybody else is cheeks, the rest of that division. So AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs are 5-0 still. You got the Chargers at 3-2, and then the Broncos are at 3-3. So it's somewhat one-sided there, but there's a couple teams trying to put themselves in a position to compete for that AFC West. In the NFC East, you've got the Washington Commanders at 4-2, Philadelphia Eagles at 3-2, and the Cowboys at 3-3. So the Eagles, I know people were kind of upset we lost to the Eagles earlier in the year, and I felt like it was a pretty close game, obviously. It came down to what should have been a last-second Hail Mary, but we didn't get it off. But the Eagles, I think the Eagles are a good football team. I didn't understand going into the year that everybody was talking, not everybody. Some people were just like, oh, they're trash. We're going to boat race them. And I'm like, man, I don't know. There's a lot of talent on that team, a lot of talent. And a lot of good coaches, too, that have now been kind of shuffled around the league. A lot of experience. Now, that don't always mean doesn't equal a win, right? You've got to get everybody on the same page operating as one. But the Commanders there, too, is wild that they're in first place. NFC North, obviously the Vikings 5-0. And you got the Lions 4-1, the Packers 4-2, the Bears 4-2. Hands down,
still suck.
Hands down the best division in football, man. God, it's going to be such a good second half of the season, too, for the NFC North. And then when you look at the NFC South, you've got the Atlanta Falcons at 4-2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-2. And obviously the Falcons have the slight edge there. And then the NFC West seems to be one of the stinkiest divisions in all of football. San Fran leading the way at 3-3, then Seattle 3-3, Arizona at 2-4. So really what you look at here, Tim, is if you just exclude all of the division leaders and you go, okay, who's in the running in the NFC for the wild card right now? It's wild to think that all four teams in the North could potentially make it. But as it sits right now, if the Bucs lose and everyone else in the NFC North wins, which we know that can't happen. Let's do it this way. Let's say that it still holds true, really. If the Bucs lose this week, right, and let's say the Lions even beat the Vikings, let's say that happens, or vice versa, it don't really matter. Then if the playoffs started today, the two wild card teams would be the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. That's crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, that is wild. I mean, the good news is for us NFC North guys that the Vikings or the Lions are going to lose. So one of these teams is going to catch an L, which is going to be good news, like you said, for us either way. Unless, of course, they pull off the improbable and end up with a tie. Yeah, that would tilt the division a little bit too, though. So kind of interesting, man. When especially on the NFC side, I mean, this is not a self brag or anything, but going into this season, I had really thought that two of my kind of dark horse teams were that could really make some noise were the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and here's both of them sitting at 4-2 here early in the season. The one that really caught me out of left field is the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels and the boys over there. That's a shocker. Now, but you look at that, like you said, looking at a too early playoff picture kind of prediction here. I mean, the NFC East really looks still competitive. There are a lot of things can change in the next few weeks, depending on how the season plays out. But all eyes are on these NFC matchups because playoff spots are a premium, even with the additional wild card team. It's still going to be an uphill battle to get into the playoffs. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Jason, you in the chat, I'm pretty sure this Japanese text here, Omer just deciphered it that Jason, you put in there, and it means this show sucks. So you got to love that, Tim. We're officially worldwide, my man. We made it.
I love it. Thank you for the translation, Omer.
Look at Omer's
French guy translating Japanese. I love it.
Look at Omer's new profile pic too. Check it out.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Omer, I need you to send me that. Is
that Tupac LaFleur and Suge Hafley?
Oh my God. Listen, Omer, send me that in a DM, bro. We got to add that to the show. That is magnificent, man. And if you stole it from if you got it from someone else, let's shout them out too. And like I said, shout out to Nerding on NFL for these awesome graphics every week. Everybody needs to be following Nerding on NFL. You got to. And tell them that PTA sent you. All right. All right. So Most passing yards in the league, you've got Geno Smith leading the way, then Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. You got Kirk Cousins, and then you got Joe Burrow. Okay, most rushing yards in the league. You've got Travis Henry, Derrick Henry. I say it every time. Derrick Henry. You've got Mason from the 49ers, Chuba Hubbard, however you want to say it, for the Panthers. Then you got Saquon Barkley from the Eagles. And then, of course, Josh Jacobs from the Green Bay Packers is 5th in the league in rushing at 464 yards and 4.2 yards per carry. What you're noticing there, too, guys, is the yards per carry significantly less than everyone else on that top 5 list, which means they are pounding the rock with Josh Jacobs. It's these other guys probably getting far fewer carries. Maybe, I don't know, Derrick Henry, man, he's a workhorse. It looks like with 704 yards rushing right now, that dude is just –
I love how everyone was saying, like, oh, Derrick Henry's washed. He's getting old. He's number 1 in the league right now, rushing.
And they would not say it to his face, I guarantee.
Not guaranteed.
Most receiving yards. Here we go. Nico Collins for the Texans, guys, 567 yards. He's averaging 17.7 yards per reception. We got to face him this week, Tim. No, we don't, sir. He is on IR. That's huge. That is huge. You're talking about dodging a bullet. Nico is one of the great young players in the league. So he's still leading the league here, obviously, in going into week 7. Jamar Chase with the Bengals, 565 yards. He's 2nd. Then you got Godwin with the Bucks, then DK Metcalf with Seahawks, and then CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys. It is wild to think about that. Dak Prescott, everybody's talking about how bad he's playing and how horrible the Cowboys are, and he's still 3rd in the league in passing, and doing it with a pretty comparable yards per attempt outside of Brock Purdy, who's just had an insane 8.8 yards per attempt. Everyone else is hovering right there around that 7 mark. So there we go. And then most offensive yards per game as a team. You got the Ravens first, the 49ers second, the Lions third, and then the Green Bay Packers are in 4th place at 400 yards per game of total offense. Really cool there. And then the Commanders at 378. Least yards allowed per game. The Titans are still leading the league in yards per game at 248.8. I want to take a second here. And I don't want this to turn into a victory lap. I just want to help people understand what I mean when I talk defense. You notice I don't put a big emphasis on yards per game or yards per play. It's like the 3rd or 4th metric that I get to, right? And really the total yards per game and even yards per play doesn't matter as much as the rushing or passing, because every week it's a different opponent you're playing. You might play at pass-happy offense. That's the key statistic that week, is how you slow down their passing game. Or if you're playing a heavy running team like the Baltimore Ravens, it's how you stop the run that week. It's being specific with your pass rush. Forget the sacks. Forget the pressures. The goal is to prevent the other team from scoring points, period, case closed. And that's why I always put at the top of the list points per play and points per game. And then you move on to what's the second most important? Turnovers created. And then after that, what is it? Now you can get into the yardage, the specific yardage, depending on the opponent that week. If you want to look at the total yards, just to get a kind of a global perspective of which teams are doing well. And I say that because of all the people that, but look at the yards they're giving up. They're giving up a ton of yards. Talking about the Packers. Okay, which one would you rather have? The Packers defense with the turnovers and far fewer points given up, or the Titans with 248.8 yards per game?
I'm going the Packers all day.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean you can't be a good defense and have great yards allowed per game numbers like the Jets. Good defense, solid top 5 defense at 273 yards per game, but it's not everything. Like the Texans, you can see they limit the explosive plays and keep the yardage per game down, right? It's just, now I would like to see here, I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm going to take a quick gander here and see what the scoring defense is, if I could find it, and where the Texans are sitting in points per play. All right, so on defense, Minnesota still leads in the LA Chargers, Denver Broncos, Pittsburgh Steelers, Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs, New York Jets. Oh, check this out, Tim. The Green Bay Packers are now 9th in the league in points per play allowed. Absolutely huge. And I'm telling you, stop worrying about the pass rush. You can turn on the tape and see these guys moving laterally. You can see them run stunning. You can see, like we showed in that the last Chalk Talk, I think it was, or maybe it was a clip on Carl Brooks or whatever, pointing out, like, watch this guy, like it was Kenny. He's not going after the quarterback right here. He occupied a double team, and he's drifting to the side to take away that escape route. That is by design by Jeff Hafley, marrying up the coverage on the backside with the pass rush on the front side and making sure it doesn't get you exploited within the running game, and everything works together as a unit. That's why the numbers are down. The people, they got real quiet, Tim. The people that were piling on Rashawn Gary the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks in the season. He's washed, he's trash, he's not worth the money. You turn on the tape and you're like, bro, watch his assignment. Watch his assignment, right? It's very assignment sound. And all of a sudden, we're top 10 in points per play, and you're leading the league in takeaways and all these things, right? And they go quiet. You don't hear about them now. It's like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, you can't look at a team that created significant pass rush last year and then go into the very next year and look at the same guys rushing the passer and go, well, all of their numbers are down. If all of their numbers are down, they must be doing something somewhat conservative right now to stay within the framework of what Jeff Hafley wants to use as the blueprint of his defense. I think it's huge. You just gotta understand that stuff, man.
And if you don't, you're gonna naturally react the way people react, right? It's easy to look at the game, if you're watching it from your eye is on the ball instead of off the ball. Shameless plug. But it's easy to see, like, oh, he's not getting home. The pass rush is weak, and it's like, well, you're watching one or two guys and what they're doing, and you're not looking at anything else, and that's why you're reacting the way you are. So, I'll take the pressure pick, coverage, sack mentality all day, left and right, and I'll take a defense that might give up some yards, but is averaging 2 to 3 takeaways a game at this point. It seems like, we've seen it we saw it in the Vikings game. I mean, gosh, talk about giving up yards and giving up points. But boy, did they create turnovers when they needed it. And boy, did that team get themselves right back in that football game. You have a defense like that. It's never say die, and you can never count the Packers out, because at any moment you're going to get one of those trademark Evan Williams, Mike Tyson punch outs. You're going to get the football back, or you're going to get a Xavier McKinney pick, or you're going to get a Rashawn Gary strip sack. It's coming. These things are coming. It's all a part of scheme, right? Like you said. I really love what Hafley does too, because just when you think you got him figured out, or he's slowly becoming predictable, it's like boom, you get a whole new look. You get different personnel, you get a different look. Like you said, we saw that psycho package, or whatever you want to call it, NASCAR package, whatever. We saw that peppered in. We went from hardly pressuring at all to holy crap, we're rushing 6, and we're all we're setting the dogs, and then we're falling back in coverage. We saw, like you said, a lot of Tampa 2 mixed in there, because we've got the athletic linebackers to do it, whether that's Quay or Coop back there. And it's refreshing, right? It really is refreshing. Change is only good if it's for the better, and clearly bringing Coach Half in here is for the better. Defense looks great.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And again, when we flash this up here, right, you're showing the Texans. If you looked at that, you go, oh, man, the Texans are a top 3 defense, right? That's what you would think, yards per game, right? Well, the Houston Texans, when it comes to points per play, are 21st in the league at .387. So I would rather have points than yards. That's just me personally.
Yeah. What do they put on the scoreboard at the end of the game? The total yards or the total points?
Yeah, and then I'm going to take a quick look at turnovers here. Takeaways per game, and see where they're sitting. This might be the game changer here, right? When you talk about takeaways per game, Green Bay still leads the league at 2.8 takeaways per game. That includes fumbles and interceptions. What I love about takeaways per game is it filters out the fumbles that you didn't recover, right? Sometimes that can happen. Quarterback botches a snap, picks it back up, right? It's like, I don't want that convoluting the numbers. I want to know how many extra opportunities did we give our offense, right? And when you look for Houston's 14th, actually, tied for 14th at 1.2. So they're middle of the pack for takeaways. And for points per game, they're in the bottom third, right? And it doesn't mean the Packers should kill the Texans. It does not mean that, man. I'm telling you, any given Sunday, the worst team in the league can boat race the best team. We've seen it. I've been watching this game since late 80s, early 90s. My earliest memories right around 92, 93, where I actually was starting to understand, what's going on. That's how it's always been. And you can't give these other teams bulletin board material. You gotta treat every team with the utmost respect. So just because these numbers suggest, hey, the Packers probably have the edge here. They're also 3-point favorites. Some people have it at 2.5. Others have it at 3.5. Doesn't make a hill of beans other than here's where this game is kind of based right now.
Yep.
And it's important to hit on all that, really is. So let's see here. We'll keep that tab up in case we need it. Let's shift gears to the injury report real quick, if that's all right with you, Tim. Let me also do this team rankings real quick. All right. So with the injury report, a couple things changed here. Obviously, three things changed on the Packers side of things. With the toe, Kenny Clark went from limited to full participation yesterday on Friday's practice. Elton Jenkins went from limited to full participation with the knee. And then Josh Myers went from limited to full participation with the neck injury. So I think they said that was a stinger is what it was for Josh. That's why he went out and came back in.
Okay.
So thank God he avoided something there. Anytime you see neck, man, it makes me nervous. But as far as the game statuses, no one has a game status other than Dontavion Wicks, Kobe Wooden, and Devontae Wyatt, which means Dontavion Wicks and Kobe Wooden are both questionable. That's a 50-50 shot of playing. And then no surprise here with Devontae Wyatt not practicing all week, he is listed as out. And I think they might have looked at that tape of Carl Brooks and said, you know what, let's make sure Wyatt's completely healthy. All right. So that's your injury list for the Packers. If we shift gears to the Texans, you've got Al-Shaair, the linebacker. He is out with the knee injury. Let's see. Fatakasi, I think is how you say it.
Nice. Nailed it.
Defensive tech. No, I didn't, Tim. You know I didn't. He was limited on Friday. He's listed as questionable, so he's got a 50-50 shot of playing. Kamari Lassiter, cornerback with a shoulder injury, he's now officially out. Steven Sims, wide receiver with the back injury, did not participate. He's questionable. They rested him Wednesday, Thursday, or no, I bet it snuck up on him Friday is what it was. So he practiced Wednesday, Thursday, and then his back started bothering him. So he did not participate Friday. Now he's a 50-50 shot. I would say my guess would be he wouldn't be playing, but who knows. Then you got the Henry. I still don't know how to say that name. I don't have
2020.
Is that just it? 2020? Concussion.
I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
We talked about this earlier in the week. If he didn't start practicing by Thursday, he's probably not in the clear concussion protocol. He did not practice all week, so he is officially out. Laramie Tunzel was full participation there. He had an ankle injury last week, so he's good to go. That's arguably their best offensive lineman, I'm sure. Jimmy Ward, safety with the groin injury, he is listed as out now, and Robert Woods, wide receiver with the foot, is listed as out. Now, you don't see Nico Collins on here. Nico Collins has officially been placed on IR, so they're without Robert Woods and Nico Collins.
So get ready for the Joe Mixon show.
Yeah, the name of the game should be Let's Stop Joe Mixon. And how do you do that? Run stunting, playing conservative with your pass rush. Make sure you don't get too far upfield. Again, in the offseason, we talked about switching from the 34 jam to the 4-3 front, whether you want to run an under, over, however you want to look at it. If it is truly one gap in your base, if you're playing one gap in your base, the positive is you're going to get in the backfield easy. The negative is you're going to run right past the run a couple times. You've seen it. It was two games ago. I'm pretty sure it was Kenny Clark that did it, and then there was someone else. It might have been Kobe Wooden, ran right by the running back. And you can tell that Halfley backed off the throttle a little bit. Like, all right, let's make sure we're not giving up those explosives in the running game and play it kind of safe on the front. I think that's probably what you're going to see here trying to stop Joe Mixon. Now, listen, D'Amico Ryans is going to have that defense ready to play. But I think on the surface, based off this injury report with Robert Woods and Nico Collins being out, probably need to focus on stopping the run. So
I would agree. And we gotta be on our P's and Q's right out the gate. I watched, courtesy of Clayton, I watched a lot of NFL Pro footage of that Texans Patriots game. And I'll tell you, man, one thing I noticed is Houston comes out to play, man. They don't F around at all. They are marching down the field, moving the ball right away. So this would be a game to me. If we win the toss, we take the ball, put our offense out there, try and get up, early. If we end up, starting on defense, we got to start fast and we got to start disciplined because Joe Mixon is a problem, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's a problem. And, seeing that we've got, Laramie Tunsil's probably going to go, right? Full participant. He's going to play. If their line is clicking, we've got to, like you said, we have to account for that run game with CJ Stroud being down two targets there in the offense. And then the other thing that I wanted to say that stood out on tape is Mr. Schultz, Mr. Dalton Schultz. We've got to keep an eye on him. Kind of became a favorite target of Stroud down the stretch in that Patriots game last week, getting a lot of targets. So we got to start fast on defense, man, because injuries or not, Houston is going to be a team they're going to show up and they're going to put the pedal to the metal from quarter one right away. And we know this Packers team has had a brief history here of starting off kind of slow in these ball games, and we cannot afford to do that against the Texans.
Yeah, definitely. And, listen, just because Robert Woods and Nico Collins are out doesn't mean they don't have good receivers either. Yeah. Their big strength in adding Stephon Diggs this offseason, it put them in that category. They might have the best wide receiver core in the entire league. So they still got Stephon Diggs, and they still got Tank Dell. Now, Tank Dell is grading out as the 67th highest graded wide receiver in the league. So obviously he's not playing like a true number two. But Stephon Diggs 15th in the league according to PFF, so he's still got that gas in the tank. So you got to be aware of that. Obviously, just play your game, man. Yeah. Keep playing, like you have here recently, and keep pick your spots when you want to be aggressive. I think that's what Hafley has done really, really well. You keep that up, I think you're going to be just fine. Also, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say it'd be interesting to see how. What the Texans game plan is, because from what I saw, man, it was strange because they looked very similar to our offense last week. I saw a ton of condensed sets all day. They were running condensed sets. I don't know if that's going to be the same approach against the Packers, but you got to think so, right? If they may lean on the run, and there's still weapons there. Like I said, you got Schultz in the tight end position, and you've got like you mentioned, Stephon Diggs. You can't forget about Stephon Diggs out there at all. I'm looking forward to seeing. Hopefully, Jair will block Schultz into Diggs like he did a few years ago when he blocked Adam Thielen right into Diggs in the Vikings game. I don't know if you guys remember that one. One of my favorite Jair highlights of all time.
Awesome, man. Blew the whole play up.
Yeah.
Looked like it was a smoke screen, and Jair read it and just took his lead blocker right into the pass catcher. It was amazing.
We always talk about that Jair-Justin Jefferson kind of rivalry. Hey, there is a Jair-Stephon Diggs rivalry. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to say it's bad blood or anything, but them dudes – on the football field, they do not like each other. So
that's the one too. I think that where Stephon Diggs ran out of the tunnel with the Packers, and he found Jair and was jawing with him, and then they asked Jair afterwards, and he said, "What did you say to Stephon Diggs?" I just told him he's a little boy, something like that. He just changed the subject. It was great. For those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour one. We will see you on the other side for hour two. We appreciate y'all. All right, so. Let's shift gears now. I thought this was cool. One last little thing, then we're going to shift gears and talk a little Jordan Love. NFL Nerd, this is the account I'm telling everybody to follow here, at Nerding on NFL. Texans at the Packers, Sunday, October 20th, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Last week 7 matchup for these two teams were in 2020, and the Packers defeated the Texans 35-20. Just a nice little nugget there. You see Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers doing their thing together. Devontae with that stiff arm. I think that dude's still feeling that. He never breathed the same again, Tim.
Was that Lovie Smith coaching them back then? Who?
I think it was. It was.
Because D'Amico's been there, what? This is his second year?
God, man, I'm not the person.
I want to say that was a different Texans team in 2020, a few years ago. So, but that's awesome, man. It's crazy how things work out, right?
Yeah, and I've got the worst memory in the world. Like, I'll think of something. I'm like, you remember last year when we did this? And Mandy's like, Clayton, that was 8 years ago. Oh, God, I'm the worst at that. That's why I use a lot of illustrations on this podcast, this show, because I need that. If I didn't have it, I'd be telling you guys so many lies it wouldn't even be funny, man. So, all right, let's do this. Let's shift gears and talk a little Jordan Love, man. I think that obviously he started off a little slow. He was a little rusty after the knee injury. We talked about the statistic that was just absolutely mind-boggling, that he is still – I'll pop it up here real quick just to make sure I don't screw it up. NFL Talk tweeted this out: top 5 NFL quarterbacks in passing touchdowns heading into Week 7. Number 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield at 15. He's played every game this year. And then number 2, the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love with 12. He has missed 2 of the 6 games. So just absolutely wild that he's almost leading the league in touchdown passes, even though he missed those 2 games. Now, you guys will hear me talk about all the time Greg Cosell, right? Ross Tucker Football Podcast, one of my favorite podcasts as well. They actually tagged me in this. They know anytime they talk Greg Cosell, I'm a fanboy, right? This is tweeted out by Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Says, I think Jordan Love is physically and just traits-wise a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league. All right, so this is a strong statement here from what Ross Tucker refers to as the civilian GOAT, Greg Cosell. Also, when you hear us say Daddy Soda, I got that from Ross Tucker. That was his saying. So he got me saying it. Like I said, just an awesome podcast. Make sure you go give them a follow on Twitter and all that good stuff. Make sure you subscribe to their podcast as well. It's cool to hear former NFL veteran offensive lineman talk about the game from his perspective. I'd much rather hear that from some stats nerd that's sitting in their basement pretending like they understand everything that a player goes through. That's just me. But here's Greg Cosell. Been with NFL Film since the 1970s. Senior producer for NFL Matchup, one of the best shows as far as breaking down X's and O's. Here's what he had to say about Jordan Love. I apologize for the volume. It's cranked. I'll fix it for everybody on the pod, but I can't do anything here live. So crank those TVs up. Here we go.
I think Jordan Love is physically and just traits-wise a top 3-4 quarterback in this league. He still has some things to clean up. He still has a tendency to throw a few too many balls off balance, falling backwards. And that has to be cleaned up. There's no question, because that will lead to some bad throws. But what they do offensively, and this comes from Matt LaFleur, it's funny you asked me this right after we spoke about the Bills. They do so many good things schematically that it really creates throws for Love, and he's such a good thrower of the football. So it's a really beautiful mix of schematics and a quarterback that's really a high-level talent. Now, keep one thing in mind, too. He's only been sacked 4 times in 155 dropbacks. That's 1/4 of 1% of his dropbacks. That's really, really good. So I think
absolutely awesome, man. Great little nugget there at the end. So obviously they're protecting Love, and he's singing high praise, talking about he's a top 3 or 4 quarterback as far as arm talent, just physical traits, and talked about some of the pros and the cons. But I love that he put some shine on Matt LaFleur's name there, Tim, because we've been talking about it. You could see it last year. It was all over the tape. Matt LaFleur is probably the best scheming coach when it comes to the passing game in the entire National Football League. That dude just knows how to create separation. He'll get you in and out of advantageous looks based off of the data that suggests, hey, this team is really bad at defense against 2x2 sets or a 3x1 set or whatever it may be. And what he'll do, like, let's say you go in and you face a team and it's like the glaring obvious statistic is, man, they really struggle against bunch right looks. If that's the case, what Matt will do is come out in a dub nasty look and then pre-snap motion that guy to the bunch, right? So you're given a pre-snap look. That's just more information for the defenders to have to process before the ball's snapped. And then you get that quick cheat motion, and it's game over. So pretty cool to hear him singing Matt LaFleur's praises there, man.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And one of the things I've always loved about Coach LaFleur ever since he came here is one of the nuances to his scheme or his playbook is the ability to run the ball out of passing sets and the ability to pass the ball out of run sets. And you totally use deception against these defenses because it can be really hard to read. And like you said, late pre-snap motion, we're seeing more and more orbit. I think we've seen orbit in every game this year, whether that's Jaden Reed or Bo Melton, whoever we're using back there. It's getting those defenders' eyes moving. It's getting their legs moving. It's getting them to cheat right where you want them to, playing right into your hands. And that's where you see some of these explosives. And it's a testament to Matt LaFleur and why he got the job here in Green Bay in the first place. If you remember, Mark Murphy said Matt was the most prepared candidate that they interviewed. He had already been into our film study. He had seen what was happening in the last few years with Coach Mack, and he came in here, and it was a change, and it was pretty drastic. And we saw Aaron Rodgers kind of try to keep things kind of McCarthy-esque in those first couple seasons. Yeah. But I think LaFleur did a great job with that transition. And now, removed from that, look where we are. New look team. We got Jay Money at the helm, and this offense can be really deadly when they get going. So shout out to Tupac LaFleur, your future coach of the year. Yeah. Let's go.
Need to make you happy. Still get pretty good odds on that too. If you want to just put a little something on it. I don't like the gambling of just like the year-end totals and all that stuff. I just feel like it's too drawn out. I like to go week to week, have fun at instant gratification rather than let's put $2,000 down on this bet and hope it hits by the end of the year. I'm just not about that. But it was cool to see though the odds kind of shifting a little bit too. But when it comes to Jordan Love and what Matt LaFleur is doing here, I put a tweet out. I put Packers quarterback Jordan Love has 12 touchdown passes in only 4 games played. Of those 12 plays, 4 are explosives, which means passes of 20 yards or more. All right, quarterback 1, QB1 starting to heat up. So I'm going to go ahead and play these real quick and show you which plays those were. So these are all the explosive passing plays for Jordan Love this year, okay? This is the 70-yard bomb to Jaden Reed against, I believe it was the Eagles down in Brazil. So obviously this is the climb route with Jaden Reed. You're just going to see him. I think they motion Watson over to get that bunch look we talked about. And essentially what you've got is a slot cross mixed in with a dagger concept. So what you've got is one guy's going to go deep, one guy's going to run a dig, and Jaden Reed is actually going to run a climb across the field, which is essentially a crosser. Here we go. Let's roll the tape. So you'll see here comes a pre-snap motion, Christian motioning over. There's that bunch look, cheat motion, switch release, and now you're going to see the slot cross with a go in the middle of it. That's dagger or slot cross, all right? And then, of course, the juke at the end there by our boy Jaden Reed. My favorite part's at the end right here, Tim. Watch him dance. Watch the defender get mad. Get away from me.
Bon dia.
Absolutely love it. All right, play 2. So this is the 66-yard touchdown pass to Tucker Kraft on the shallow cross. Some would call it a climb or a mid-cross. I'd still call it a shallow. You could tell he's looking to work underneath. Although the defense gives him so much space, he does give less of a flatten of it and take it a little bit more depth. But obviously this is, again, pre-snap motion, so you're motioning over from a dub set. And this boomerang orbit motion here, right? We've called it zipper orbit. We call it the popular term for this. I've been doing some studying because I'm like, there's got to be something that everyone kind of calls this motion because it's becoming more and more popular. They call it boomerang orbit or orbit boomerang, all right? So essentially, as you can see here, the receiver is going to motion in front of the quarterback and then boomerang around him for an orbit. They're going to fake the handoff to Jaden Reed, all right? So, again, what you're going to see with Tucker Kraft is just a shallow cross here. It's more of a mid-cross, but he's just going to kind of work behind the backers here just a touch. And, again, the play action, you can see, watch the backers. You see their body lean. They both took a step forward. Tucker's coming full sprint here, kind of selling a little bit of he may block right here, but he's definitely going to run a crosser. Tucker across the field. Great grab. All the passing concepts sync up together. Stiff arm on that little boy. Stiff arm on that little boy. And we're off to the races. So there is the second explosive play of Jordan Love. Touchdown passes, I should say, this year. Next, you got the 44-yard touchdown pass. This is the deep post to Christian Watson last week. We talked about the evolution of that play. Christian Watson actually went to the sideline and told the coaches, hey, remember that play we ran 2 weeks ago against Minnesota? Yeah. Now's the time to do it. They're completely – he's like, I think he said they're not respecting my speed. He said something along those lines, and, boy, he was right. So what they came out in was a twin right set where you've got – it's basically 12 personnel out of the ace, so Jordan is under center. You got one running back, 2 tight ends to the left. They're going to motion one over, so what that's going to give you now is a Trey Wright look out of 12 personnel. So how many times have we seen Trey Wright? Now, some people would call this – you could call it Trey right. You could call it nub left, although you typically don't say nub when there's 2 tight ends in. So I think it would be basically 12 ace Trey ride is what you would call it. And he settles in, so you get 3 targets on that side of the field. Christian Watson's just going to absolutely cook Buda Baker to a crisp on that post route right there. And, of course, you always love the Lambeau leap anytime a play ends in a Lambeau leap. So that was the 3rd explosive passing touchdown for Jordan Love this year. Here is the 4th one, and it's right on the mark, Tim. 20 yards out, baby. Barely made the cut, but it made the cut. This is the Romeo Doubs out and up. Now, you're going to notice they're in a Trey left look here, right? Trey left nasty. And they're going to motion Dobbs over, which is going to make it a 2-by-2 set. So it's going to turn it. It's going to go from 11 gun Trey left to 11 gun Dub nasty is what we're going to have here. Okay. So you're going to see Romeo come over, and it's going to be an out and up route, which is real simple. What that means, he settles in there. He's just going to give a little 5-yard outlook and then hit up the sideline. It's funny. Greg Cosell said the thing he needs to clean up, Tim, is throwing off that back foot, those fadeaway throw. You got to clean it up. And here we are. One of his 4 explosives is actually one of those throws. So here we go. Out and up, just a little shake, bang. Jordan tossing it up, giving his boy a chance. Touchdown.
What a freaking route by Rome.
Yeah.
Like
amazing,
geez, man. Like any young players out there playing receiver, man. Watch tape on Romeo Doubs running routes, because it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah. And again, watch the defender. He doesn't know what to do, man. He's just he's hanging on for dear life. And then, of course, Love just puts enough air under it there to give Rome a shot. And I love Romeo in that spot there, man. I have no problem trusting him to bring down that ball, or at least it fall incomplete.
I love the play call there, because when they motion him over like that, you can just see the hat count advantage disappear immediately for that defense. And you think play or not play, right? You're putting a guy like Rome, who's, the contested catch king, and you're putting him in a one-on-one. I mean, I'm comfortable saying he's going to win that battle 75 to 80% of the time. I'm going with Romeo Doubs there if he's got no safety help over the top. And even if he does, I still think Rome's coming down with the football. So it's great scheme and great execution there, man. Those guys make it look easy, and that is not easy to do.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach Lynn said on that Watson post, he said, watch Watson upshift at the top of this route. There was no shot. Like when he did not lose any momentum whatsoever, bending into Buddha and then turning it into a post. It was just like Coach Lynn said, and like Garth Brooks said one time, he never hit the brakes and he was shifting gears. You know what I'm saying, Tim? If you guys
he said, Coach, they're not respecting my speed. So I had to shift to 5th gear real quick just to let them know.
Everybody's gonna Google that, and they're gonna get their first experience of Papa Love Mama tonight by Garth Brooks. hell of a banger, let me tell you, man. Let's go to the chat real quick. We have some in here that you have marked I missed here. Ron Sample says, Tim and Mrs. G hit football game for date night. Would Mrs. G mind telling my wife how romantic it was? So obviously you did some Friday night lights like I did last night, right? You went to East Green Bay High, is that right, Tim?
Yeah, we went over to City Stadium, man. Saw the final game of the year, East versus West. Shout out to Green Bay East. They actually put points on the board. Good for them. They didn't get completely boat raced. It was a tight game for a while, but they lost to West. I believe it was 21-6. But I don't know. It was a nice night for football. It was a little chipper out there, but we bundled up and had some terrible hot chocolate from the concession stand. And
it's the worst, bro.
It's the worst, but you gotta love it, man. It's even in this economy, you can still go to the concession stand and spend like $3 and still get some snacks. So kind of a throwback to the old days. But I don't know how romantic Mrs. G thought it was. She's a little busy right now. Otherwise, I'd get her down here to let everybody know.
Have her fill out a comment card, right? Yeah, we went to Cherokee, Sullivan East, and the boys at Cherokee, where my nephew played, they absolutely boat raced them. It was, I think it ended up being like 45-0 or 45-7 it was. And I remember Mandy and my brother-in-law, Sammy's dad, were like, I'm glad they scored, man. Those kids. And I thought, I wanted that shutout. You kidding me? Let's shut them on out. But Sammy caught a touchdown pass, had a little RPO look. Pre-snap, it was hilarious. I looked back at Jay and I went, I said, look at the boundary side. There's no safety, outside leverage. If they don't run right here, if he tucks this thing, if he pulls it, throws the RPO, it's a tutter. Sure enough, man, ball snap, pulled it out of the belly, hammered the slant, little looky route, game over. It was cool to see him score again. So Actually, he's at the last 2 games. He's got a touchdown.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Enough of that sift blocking. Let's get him the ball.
It's funny. What did I just tell you? They had him actually playing boundary X, and oh my God, a kid that's 6'4" and has blazing speed can play boundary X. What are we doing? Hopefully their coaches aren't watching. So sorry about that. Well, Badger Trio says Texans has key players out tomorrow. Should be a heck of a game. Absolutely, man. Can't overlook anybody, right? No doubt. Omer, I'll send you the pick on X, no probs, talking about the profile pick. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll get that added into the system. And he did confirm he made it out of 2 picks. There you go. So we'll make sure
That ain't no problem.
Well,
Nate Dogg got a special request here, Tim. You think you could help Nate out? I don't know if you
I think we can arrange that.
Just here to tell you, Pack is back.
You heard it from a fan right here.
Nick McSwain with the chat said, if Love throws 2 touchdowns in the next 3 days, he'll be tied with Rodgers and Brady for the most consecutive games with 2 touchdowns. He went on to say his streak is 11 games right now. Let's read that one more time, Tim. So if Jordan Love throws 2 touchdowns in the next 3 days, he'll be tied with Aaron Rodgers, first ballot Hall of Famer, Tom Brady, the GOAT, first ballot Hall of Famer, for most consecutive games with 2 touchdowns. And that streak sits at 11. That's a pretty damn good company, Tim. That's good company there.
That's right. Hey, why do you think I call him J Money? Let's go. He's going to throw 4 tutters on Sunday. Let's go.
Let's go. Mrs. Green in the house said yes. ... So romantic. Tim, you might be on the ropes, bro. You might be on the ropes.
I'd have to take her on a real date tonight.
And then she gives a pro tip here. She says, tip, bring an extra packet of cocoa if you're going to have the hot chocolate from the concession stands. He's Green Bay High taking strays here on the show, man. You don't get that on any other show. That's how you know this one sucks. That's how we roll, man. All right, let's see. We get the chat cleaned up. Let's go to a little Xavier McKinney. You want to talk a little X here for a second?
Here's the guy.
That's right, sir. So I tweeted this one out too, put this out before we went to the ball game last night. Here are all 5 of Packers safety Xavier McKinney's interceptions with specific play call / assignments. All right.
Oh boy, here we go. I got to go full screen for this one. Let's go.
So we go and a couple of notes I put in there. He can go from shell to post, meaning pre-snap shell coverage, and work his way to the post. He can go from post safety all the way to the sideline to pick a ball off. He reads the quarterback like a book, and he's got, absolutely elite ability to break on the football when it comes to picking the ball off here as we get this straightened back up. Did it reset? No, we're good. All right. So the text will get a little larger here in a minute, Tim. Let me actually zoom in just a touch more. Oh, yeah, here we go. So on this play here, this is against the Eagles, and these are all in chronological order throughout the season, all 5 interceptions. So this is obviously week 1 here against the Eagles. They were back. I think it was the Eagles' opening drive after Daniel Whalen absolutely pinned them deep here. But it's a pre-snap shell look. What we mean by that, guy, look, you got 2 safeties deep, right? This is what you call a shell look, all right? They're showing cover 2 or possibly cover 4, right? And it's going to end up being a Tampa 2. His responsibility is deep right half. So his responsibility is deep half of the field here. And you're going to notice Quay is going to flip his hips and run down the seam in this Tampa 2 look. And even though Xavier McKinney's responsibility is deep half, he still breaks over to the seam and picks the ball off. And great assist here by Quay Walker with the coverage down the seam. There's the Tampa 2. Hips have flipped. Going after the ball. Look where Xavier McKinney is covering his deep half. And he still breaks on this ball and picks it off. Bang. Love zone defense, man. Love it. Eyes are always on the ball. Decent return here, too, getting a couple extra yards for the Packers there. All right, next play. Post safety. Cover 1 man. Just shows great awareness. He reads the quarterback's eyes the entire time. So you're showing, when we say post safety, it means a single high safety. Now you can show post safety with a cover 1 look and then shift in the shell if you want to run like a little inverted cover 2 type thing or cover 4. But in this case, they're showing pre-snap post safety. He's going to be playing post safety. It's cover 1 man, great awareness, reads the quarterback's eyes. So watch him here. What I love about this, Tim, he doesn't get too aggressive. You see the play fake. All right, he's watching. It'd be real easy right here to drive on the ball. But because he's got eyes on the quarterback the entire time, watch him just sit down right here. I'll take that, sir. That's how I'm telling you, when you got eyes on the quarterback, you can play the ball instead of the receiver. It's absolutely huge. You don't have to keep your eyes on your work. Next play, he's playing post safety. This is out of a cover 3 zone. He's going to go from the seam to the sideline. This is that elite break on the ball that we're talking about. So he's up here. He's actually playing the right hash. Will Levis is going to put it down here on this sideline down here.
Yep.
Watch how much ground Xavier McKinney covers right
This is what I talk about when I compare him to Charles Woodson.
Yes.
Right here.
Look at it. He's on the right hash. Look at this break. Look at that. Like, look where he's at when the ball is thrown and how much ground he covers. Bang. That's just phenomenal. That is insanity how well he plays out of the post getting to the sideline. And Tim, we watched the tape before we signed him, or right after we signed him in the offseason. We were kind of breaking down some of his tape with the Giants. You've seen that, did you not? It was constantly going from post to the sideline, making the play.
I think one thing that's not talked about enough probably is the fact that, we know about X's, physical attributes and the, the athletic ability, good hands. We talk about the things he's doing on the field. You can't tell me this guy's not a film junkie like we are. I mean, he's probably got tape on every quarterback in this league, every tendency. He's clearly a student of the game because it's almost like he knows what they're going to do before they do it as a play develops. And that really only comes from, being a student of the game and watching tape on your opponents constantly. And it's just a blessing to have him back there for us, man. This guy is just elite.
Yeah, he really is, man. He's making all the difference in the world. And again, like Devondre Campbell obviously played for the Packers last year. He's now with the Niners. He's one of the worst linebackers in the league this year. And you've seen it last year. It's like, what happened to him? Is it injuries?
He was one of the worst last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the year before played great, or he played great, then he declined a touch, and then he just hit a wall. Yeah. And that's what I say about Joe Barry is like, think about what Joe Barry put together the 12th best scoring defense with. Yeah. With Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens playing safety for you. And you had Devondre Campbell instead of Edgerrin Cooper in the middle. It's like, whoo, somewhere he is pissed going, man, ain't y'all give me those players. What the heck's going on here? All right, next play. Pre-snap shell. So there you see the shell coverage. That's what we mean by pre-snap shell, 2 deep safeties. Although they're not crazy deep, but you'd still consider that shell. This is going to be a cover 3 zone defense. And the way it's going to work is this safety is going to drop deep third middle. And what his assignment is, Xavier McKinney's, is to play what we call a hook curl zone. So he's just going to buzz down just a touch and cover this mid zone. So deep third, deep third, deep third. He's in hook. You got a guy playing the hook or the curl flat area out here as well. Okay. So I say that because Xavier McKinney is just supposed to sit in this zone right here. But again, when we talk about even spot drop, this is not a match. You could tell this isn't match coverage either. When you're playing spot drop, even though this is my zone I'm covering, like Coach Haddad said when he's on the show, a blade of grass has never gained a yard in the history of the game of football. It's always players. So just because you're covering an area doesn't mean you just sit there like a moron. It means you cover those players as they're entering and exiting your zone. But what's crazy about this is if anyone else on the field, I felt like they were playing match coverage outside of just your deep cover 3 drops, which is common sense. You gotta cover your deep zone. So if somebody goes vert, you're on them. There's no reason to look for anyone else, look for any other work. He's supposed to cover this hook curl, and he breaks completely off because he notices Aaron Jones out of the backfield is going to sprint upfield and hit a little corner route over here. So watch Xavier McKinney read this. And again, this is the beautiful thing about zone defense is you've got your eyes on the ball the entire time. So you see him buzz down. He's in his curl, right? Right here, he realizes, oh, crap. If he hits this corner route, this deep third over here is already occupied. He's going to be butt naked through the trailer park to the pylon, he being Aaron Jones. And that's where X is like, you know what? Forget my assignment. We got curl flat out here that can help with this crosser if we need it, right? But I've got to make sure I prevent this touchdown. So watch him break on this ball. Not only does he prevent it, but to get the pick, that is just crazy. I mean, that is insanity right there, the break on that. And again, he's supposed to be in that hook curl. Oh, crap. Let me go get this.
The other thing and nice on that play is the discipline of your rookie, Javon Bullard, on the other side.
Yep.
I think that gives X the confidence knowing that Bullard is not cheating and he's staying home. So there is help on that side of the field if something did change.
Absolutely. And again, what it comes down to is those explosives, man. You take you choose the deeper threat rather than biting on that shallow cross. And they're actually running a spot route there, so he's really good shape with underneath. You see the spot there, Quay covering it, so we're good there.
Look at X's eyes. You're right, because when you see the quarterback, right when he gets to the top of his drop is when X is moving. And his head, if look at his helmet, his eyes are on the quarterback the whole time.
Yep. Tell you, that's the difference between zone and man.
Yep.
It's the reason we're getting the majority of our interceptions from zone. Now, listen, the man has gotten a lot better. Man cover's gotten a lot better. We're starting to get more interceptions out of it, too. People get more comfortable. But, man, when you got your eyes on the quarterback, you're playing – you got eyes on your work. You're looking through your work to the QB. You can read his eyes the entire time. You get just a better understanding of all the passing concepts rather than you focusing on just the receiver you're covering. It's tunnel vision, right? It's huge, man. I love zone defense, and you got to mix in man. It's really, really important. You'll see it right here on this play. This is a pre-snap shell again, 2 deep safeties. You see it? So this could be cover 4 or cover 2 is what it's looking like pre-snap. But after the snap, what you're going to notice is it's cover 1 robber. All right. So you're going to have one of these safeties buzzes down and cover middle zone. Everyone else is man coverage across the board. All right. And the other safety is going to cover deep. So when we say cover 1 robber, one of these safeties is going to play robber and play a mid zone right here while everyone else is man coverage. The other goes deep. So let's roll it here. You're going to see he's going to be the post safety here. So you see him starting to drift back now. The clock is ticked down now. They can't change the play. So we showed pre-snap shell. X knows they don't have time to change the play up now. So now let me get back and get a jump on my work, which is post safety right there. You see the other guy buzzes, okay? When I say buzzes, he's going to rob. It's not buzz. In a cover 3, if you go from a shell to a mid, that curl hook, we call that cover 3 buzz. In a cover 1 man, we call it robber, all right? So he's going to go to the middle of the field. Now you see mid-zone takeaway, deep mid-zone takeaway, and then everybody is playing outside leverage. Look, outside leverage here. Notice the corner, outside leverage. This guy getting a little bit cooked, but he's got time to take. If this does turn into a wheel route, he can still play over the top. You're good. Out here, Keyshawn, this was the big part of this play. Keyshawn in the slot. He maintains outside leverage, so it's going to funnel everything to the middle. So this guy's trying to get into a corner route, which, by the way, should beat this defense. But Keyshawn does such a good job walling him off and making him bend that inside. You're going to notice X just break on the ball here. It's just a phenomenal job, man. And again, just the ball break is elite, man. It really is, Tim.
Yeah, this guy is – it's a blessing, man. I don't know what else to say. And with these young players we have in our secondary, you know, having a guy like X is just – he makes the whole team better. He really does. And again, understanding the situation, like you said, he knows that they can't check out of it, like you said. I mean, and the footwork is everything, like you said, kind of like just a couple little steps back to get himself in position.
Yeah. And even this too, you know, like when we're talking about situational football, if you notice the robber who's in that mid zone, he even plays kind of up top technique. Like he doesn't want that guy to get too far over top of him. So they're prioritizing controlling the explosive as opposed to being overly aggressive on the underneath routes. And again, the pre-snap aspect of this is going to deter Matt Stafford from throwing that dig because he knows he's got a robber there in the vicinity. But the robber is really focused on helping Vert. If Keyshawn gets cooked to the inside, because again, Keyshawn, look at that subtle bump right there.
Yep.
That is huge, man. That's a veteran freaking player out there, dude.
Absolutely.
Throw him off. X going to break on the ball. Interception.
Love it.
That was his 5th interception. Of course, you got to add in a little return here. Just a little something. Protect the ball at the end. Good job. Tuck it. Man, it's awesome, dude.
I know. I always kind of hold my breath when DBs get a pick and they start running with the ball. You're like, oh my gosh, don't get punched.
Don't get it punched, right? And you've seen that slot look over the shoulder, tuck it. Coach Lynn says, I'm convinced X is the definition of a throwback player. You hear him in the locker room. Like, Tim, let's be critical of Xavier McKinney right now. What is the negative to his game? What is the negative to him being a Packer? I can't find a single thing. He tackles good. He's great in coverage. He's a locker room leader. It's like he's an intelligent player. You know, I tell you what the knock would be. If you were to flash him, if I flashed up 2 RAS cards, right, and showed 40-yard dash versus 40-yard dash and removed the names, everyone would pick Darnell Savage over him. But I'm telling you, it's right here. And Coach Derek Ansley, who's with the Packers, helped recruit him to Alabama. Coach Nick Saban said, this is my safety right here. This is my post set. Now, they play a lot of box and triangle out of quarters looks. And, of course, they got their infamous red 2, which is like trying to learn to speak Chinese. When you get in the red zone, they got the red 2 that him and Bill Belichick created together. Well, all that equals is a smart football player. First and foremost, go to the tape first. Forget this, how fast they run in their damn underwear. If you need a tiebreaker, cool. Gotcha. You got 2 players that the tape grades out equally. They look the same. Now I'm good with, let's lean on the other side. But everybody, it's going to happen again this year, Tim. Yep. February, everybody's going to fall in love with players because they are just blazing fast running around in their underwear.
Yep.
And, Xavier McKinney's just got that FBI, man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and Xavier McKinney doesn't drop interceptions either.
Never. And you notice he's a lengthy player. He's long, right? Like you can tell he's got long arms. He's a little tall. I don't even know what his height is, but when you see him on the field and you see a receiver, especially like slot receivers trying to get vertical on him, it's like this dude's towering over him.
Yep.
Just a phenomenal player. So again, wanted to hit that briefly. I thought that was awesome. Jake G126 says we'll be on site at Lambeau Field today for the stadium tour. Looking forward to it. That's what's up, Jake. Then get to watch the 5-1 Texans and the 4-2 Packers on site. Stoked. I think this is one of the everybody's got different names on different platforms. People hit me on Patreon. They've got a different name from Patreon to Twitter and then from Twitter to YouTube. So I'm trying to put them together. But someone had messaged me the other day. Let me go to it here real quick. It was probably Jake, to be honest with you. Somebody hit me up and asked a question. No, it was actually Dylan did. Okay, so Dylan hit me up and said he wanted to reach out and ask. Said he was gearing up to leave for the Packers-Texans game and was trying to find like suggestions on places to eat. So, listen.
Here comes the 1919 kitchen tap endorsement.
I'm a foodie too, man. Like I will that when we go on trips, especially when we got groups together, we do business trips and stuff. And we'd have a group of 100 people that I was always put in charge. Hey man, you find us a spot. And it was immediately start with the oldest establishment. Let's go to the coolest restaurant we could find, right? But anyway, what I told him was Tavern in the Sky. I said, if you're wanting to go fancy, right? Fancy dinner, Tavern in the Sky right next to Lambeau or the Walnut Room at the Hotel Northland in downtown Green Bay.
Yes.
Excellent. And then I said, if you want to go like cheap or a casual spot, staying in, I shouldn't say cheap. Nothing's cheap nowadays. A casual spot around Lambeau Field, you nailed it, Tim, 1919 Kitchen and Tap. And I said, if you just want to have a stomach ache from a big grease spot, go to Crow's West, right? Just get all that deep fried food in you. You're good to go. Both of those are right there at Lambeau.
Got to get the real butter burger at Crow's West for sure. For sure.
Exactly.
And you ain't lying, man. The Walnut Room, that's me and Mrs. G's favorite spot for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And the history, I told him a little bit about the history about it, how some of the Packers players and even the away teams would stay there, and some of the Packers players actually lived there. Vince Lombardi did some of his team meetings there at that specific Hotel Northland. It's got a really interesting story too, because it was this beautiful, nice hotel forever, and then it got ran down. It was purchased by the government. They turned it into Section 8 housing, and then they end up having to condemn the building because it got so bad. And it was just I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, there's places like this all over the country. It just turned into a really, really bad place. Not a place you want to be hanging out at, right? A lot of drugs, things like that. And then obviously a group came in and bought the building and restored it and made it like this historical landmark. And now they've opened up the restaurant called the Walnut Room, which essentially was in the old Walnut Room, which I think was a ballroom or something at the time. Yep. So that's why the restaurant
off the lobby. Beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah. Shout out to it's Marriott Group that's running that. And the oldest hotel in the state of Wisconsin, for all you history nerds out there. So if you're in town this weekend, if you're coming, next year for the draft, put that on your list of things to do. There's a lot of cool history. We talk about Lambeau Field area, but when you get east of the river and come down to the old part of town here in Green Bay, you got to check out the historic Hotel Northland for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt about it. Yeah, and again, just the history of it going from, like I said, that Section 8, that public housing, and listen, I was born in the housing projects, so I know all about this. I had a lot of family that still lived in the housing projects when I was growing up, so we spent many days out back. There's a place just outside of a spot called Clover Lick, Kentucky, and right on the outskirts of Cumberland where I grew up, and there was this huge hill behind those housing projects. And it's like, of all the places you could go play as a kid in town and everything, that was a spot. That hill was just awesome. We play King of the Hill and throw each other off of it and everything. Oh, unbelievable.
Love it.
Yeah. So the fact that they took a building that at one time was used for that, and they were able to convert it back to its old glory of being this beautiful looking hotel. And when you go into another cool spot, when you first walk inside, they got the neon lit sign for the Hotel Northland, which is really cool, kind of a throwback. But when you walk in the front entrance, if you go through the front door, at the bottom of the staircase on the handrail is a replica, but it's in like bronze or something of Vince Lombardi's fedora, right?
Yep.
I don't even know if it's a fedora, but that kind of cap he wore. But yeah, pretty cool how they paid homage to everything. There's pictures of him in certain rooms and stuff where you can tell they used to do their meetings and have their parties and stuff. It's really cool. Yes. Really cool spot. And I'll tell you, if you have one too many whiskeys like I did that night waiting on the Uber, they got a couple sofas out front in that lobby too that you can fall asleep on. Your wife can nudge you and go, "Hey, the Uber's here, knucklehead, wake up." So that may or may not have happened to Clayton here after eating a big dinner. So
yeah, you were just like, "Hey, what am I supposed to do?" I mean,
cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
There wasn't no cheese curds in that restaurant, were they, Tim?
No.
A little bit fancier, no doubt.
No, but the curds at 1919 Kitchen Tap are pretty good. Had some the other day. We went there for a little early dinner. So,
no, 1919 Kitchen and Tap. Their cheese curds, their beer cheese soup, their elk stroganoff, and beer on tap. I didn't want to leave. I even asked the bar, Tyler, "Can I sleep here under the bar tonight? I'll help clean tables in the morning and stuff. We'll get this thing cranked up." I love that place. It's of all the restaurants I've been to across the country, it's probably top 5 for me. And it's just a sports bar.
Yep.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So, all right, Tim, that's it, man. I feel like we hit a lot of information, dude. Obviously, we talked about Houston and some of their team statistics as far as turnovers created. We learned a little bit there, how their defense lines up. They're top 5 in yards allowed. However, they're middle to bottom in points allowed and takeaways. So I think it could be a good game. We hit the injury report. Let's see. We talked about Jordan Love. Greg Cosell's take on Jordan Love showed you his explosive touchdown passes, and also the Xavier McKinney tape there with his 5 interceptions, kind of breaking down what we're seeing there. So, yeah, that's it. Anything else, Bubba?
Looking forward to this game. Looking forward to PTA Live tonight. I'm sure we'll dive into the matchups a little bit more. I'll go watch the Texans tape from last week for the 19th time again this afternoon, and make sure that we're ready to go for Sunday's matchup. And I'm excited. I got a feeling this is going to be a shootout type of game. I really do. I think you're going to see 2 of the NFL's best and brightest young stars at the quarterback position going at it all day long. So it's really going to come down to whose defense makes the least amount of mistakes, I think, in this game. I don't think you can afford to get caught sleeping more than once, or you're going to get hit with an explosive. So just looking forward to a great ball game on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Already Ironminer says, "I'm hungry now." All right, bro. Me too. I'm going to go down here and grab a bagel or something.
You heard it from a fan right here.
You mentioned the explosives. I just got to take a quick gander. I'm trying to remember where they sit as far as explosives go. The Houston Texans are, so they're
kind of in the middle.
Right in the middle, 8.3% explosive rate. So they're not a very explosive team, and obviously missing Nico Collins is going to be huge. So, again, you can't overlook them, but it kind of feels like this is best case scenario for the Packers team. It's going to be a great test, but we are kind of catching them at the right time,
It is, but we can't, if we're getting lit up by Joe Mixon all day, they ain't going to matter about the passing game. We've got to get discipline in those run fits and make tackles in the open field.
Yeah, definitely. Omer says, make sure to hit that like button on the way out, everyone. Appreciate that, Omer. Yeah, if y'all would, just take a quick second, hit the like button. Feel free to sub to the channel, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. We appreciate y'all so much. Also, Tim, one thing you got to watch for tomorrow is this guy right here.
Oh my goodness! Don't tell me he can't possibly be our ref again.
Whether he is or isn't, this is always going to be the universal symbol for me to go, hey, you got to watch the penalties, man. Got to keep the penalties in check, right? So
that's right.
Don't want this guy popping up like the boogeyman. So
yeah, we'll have to call that guy then.
There it is. There it is. Help me out here, Tim. Let's get out of here, man.
Hold on. Where's Jacob? Oh, here's Jacob.
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us a part of your day. We'll see you tonight, 7 p.m. Central. We're going to dive into the next-gen insights for Houston Texans at the Green Bay Packers. I'm sure we might find a few films to check out there too. So you guys are awesome. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.